Let me start with something bold. Most of the time when a woman rejects you, it's not actually about you. It's about the way she perceives you in that moment. And here's the truth, women don't admit out loud that perception can change. Fast. A woman who told you no today can find herself replaying that moment weeks later, questioning if she made a mistake. But here's where most men go wrong. They try to fight the rejection. They argue, they plead, they explain, or they chase. That doesn't make her question anything. That only confirms she was right to reject you. Because in her mind, if you're begging for her, then she must have been right. You weren't the prize. The secret, and this is what most men don't understand, is that rejection isn't the end. It's an opportunity, not to convince her, but to shift the way she sees you. And if you know how women think, you'll realize that rejection can actually work in your favor if you play it right. Here's the feminine truth. When a woman rejects a man, she expects him to crumble, chase harder, or disappear in bitterness. What she doesn't expect is a man who accepts it with calmness, keeps his dignity, and continues living as if she wasn't the center of his world. That's the type of behavior that lingers in her mind. That's the type of energy that makes her question, wait, did I misjudge him? This video is not about revenge. It's not about getting back at her. It's about understanding female psychology and flipping the script in a way that makes her second-guess herself, even regret pushing you away. So let's break it down. I'll show you how to take that rejection and quietly turn it into power. 1. The power of not reacting the way she expects. When a woman rejects you, she's not just watching what you say, she's watching how you handle it. And here's where most men give away all their power. They beg, they ask for explanations, or they get angry. Every one of those reactions only reinforces her decision. It tells her, I was right. This man can't handle me saying no. But when you respond in the opposite way, everything changes. Imagine this. She tells you she's not interested, and instead of falling apart or pushing back, you simply nod, smile a little, and say something like, I understand. Take care of yourself. Then you actually mean it. No sarcasm, no bitterness, no chasing. You walk away calm. That moment right there plants a seed in her mind. Because she expected drama. She expected to see you flinch. She expected to feel your desperation. Instead, she's left with a strange emptiness, like the scene didn't play out the way she pictured. Here's the psychology behind it. Women don't just reject men because they aren't attracted. Sometimes they reject because they're testing. They want to see how you'll handle pressure. They want to know if your confidence is dependent on their approval. And when you prove that it isn't, when you show her you can take her rejection without falling apart, that's when she starts to see you differently. It's not about pretending. It's about genuinely holding your own value so high that her no doesn't destroy you. That kind of calm strength sticks with her. She might walk away at first, but trust me, she'll replay that scene in her mind. And the more she replays it, the more she'll wonder, did I just let go of a man who actually gets it? A man who's stronger than I thought? That's how you flip rejection into doubt. Not by arguing, not by proving, just by refusing to give her the reaction she expects. 2. Why distance speaks louder than words. After rejection, the most powerful thing you can do is create distance. And I don't just mean blocking her or cutting her off in some dramatic way. I'm talking about genuine distance. Physically, emotionally, and energetically, women are incredibly tuned in to whether or not you're still orbiting around them. If you keep showing up in her space, liking her posts, or finding excuses to reach out, she knows she still has you. That doesn't make her question anything. That makes her feel safe in her choice. But when you pull back, when you create real space, it unsettles her. Not because she wants you back right away, but because women are wired to notice shifts in attention. If she was used to your energy being there and suddenly it's not, it creates an uncomfortable gap. And in that gap, curiosity begins to grow. Here's the truth. Women don't miss men who stay available. They miss men who disappear without bitterness, without explanation. The quiet removal of your presence is louder than any speech you could give. She may not say anything. She may not even admit it to herself, but she'll notice. This is where men often get it wrong. They confuse distance with punishment. They go no contact, but secretly wait, hoping she reaches out. That energy leaks through. She can feel it. The real power is when your distance isn't about her. It's about you. You're not retreating to make her chase. You're retreating because your life is full, your energy is valuable, and you're not going to waste it where it's not appreciated. That difference is everything. One feels manipulative, the other feels authentic. And authenticity is what gets under a woman's skin. Because when she realizes you've really stepped away, not in anger, but in indifference, that's when the regret begins. 3. How women secretly revisit their decisions. Here's something most men don't realize. Women rarely make a rejection and then completely forget about it. We revisit our decisions. Not always out loud, not always consciously, but it happens. And when it comes to rejecting a man, the second guessing almost always shows up later. At the moment of rejection, she feels certain. She convinces herself she's making the right choice. Maybe she thinks you're not her type. Maybe she assumes she can do better. Maybe she just wasn't in the right emotional space to see you clearly. Whatever the reason, in that moment, her confidence feels unshakable. But time has a way of breaking that confidence down. Because as she moves forward, she starts comparing. Women are constantly measuring their experiences. It's part of how we decide if we made the right call. So when she interacts with other men, when she sees how they behave, or when she notices what they lack, that's when the doubt creeps in. And here's where it gets interesting. The man who handled rejection with strength and dignity always lingers in her memory. If you crumbled, begged, or got bitter, she'll feel validated in her choice. But if you stayed calm, kept living, and carried yourself like a man who knows his worth, she'll eventually start replaying that in her head. Women also have this tendency to romanticize what we didn't fully explore. If she didn't give you a real chance, there will always be this little voice inside her wondering what it might have been like. That curiosity grows, especially if your life looks good without her in it. And make no mistake, women check. Even if she doesn't reach out, she'll glance at your social media, she'll ask around, she'll find ways to see what you're up to. If she sees growth, progress, or happiness, that's when the what-if questions hit her hardest. Here's the raw truth. A woman's rejection doesn't erase attraction. It just puts it on pause. And if you handle things right, you can trigger that attraction again later by allowing her to sit in her own doubt. The problem is, most men never give her the space to revisit her choice because they won't stop chasing. They don't allow the silence, they don't create the distance, and so she never gets the chance to miss them or reevaluate. What you need to understand is that women are emotional by nature. We don't always stand firmly by the decisions we make in the heat of the moment. Feelings shift, circumstances change, and perspectives evolve. The man who respects himself enough to accept a rejection gracefully and then continues to live in a way that radiates self-value is often the same man who later finds that the woman who pushed him away comes circling back. So don't assume rejection is the final word. For women, it's often just the first draft of a story she may later rewrite in her mind. 4. Turning silence into a weapon of attraction. Most men underestimate the power of silence. They think silence is doing nothing. But from a woman's perspective, silence can be one of the loudest statements you'll ever make. And when it's done right, it gets under our skin in ways words never could. Think about it. Women are used to men chasing, explaining, trying to prove themselves. We're used to rejection leading to an endless stream of just checking in texts, comments on our pictures, or attempts to stay friends. So when you don't play into that, when you respond with silence instead of desperation, it breaks the pattern. And anything that breaks a pattern demands attention. Here's what silence communicates: strength, control, and self-respect. It says you're not going to lower your value by begging for hers. It says you know where your energy belongs, and it's not with someone who dismissed you. That quiet absence speaks louder than 1,000 words ever could. And here's the part you probably don't realize. Women notice silence. Even if she doesn't reach out, she feels it. She'll wonder why you didn't chase, why you didn't try harder, why you didn't act like all the other men. It's almost like an itch in the back of her mind that she can't scratch. She may never admit it, but that silence makes her replay the rejection over and over, trying to understand why you didn't react the way she expected. Now, silence isn't about playing games. It's not about disappearing in hopes she magically falls into your arms. It's about living in such a way that your silence becomes filled with substance. You don't just sit around waiting. You build yourself, you enjoy your life, you grow. That's when your silence carries weight. A man who disappears into nothingness doesn't create doubt. He just fades out of her memory. But a man who stays silent while continuing to thrive forces her to notice. Because women are naturally drawn to growth, to movement, to energy. When she sees you advancing without her, the silence becomes unbearable. It's no longer just, he's not talking to me. It turns into, he doesn't need to talk to me. And that's the moment attraction starts to rebuild itself in her mind. Let me be honest here. Silence is uncomfortable for women. We hate it when we can't read a man, when we can't predict his next move, when we can't control the energy he gives us. And if you've been rejected, that discomfort is your best friend. You don't need to shout. You don't need to explain. You just need to let the silence work for you while you focus on becoming the man she can't forget. So, use silence wisely. Not as a weapon to hurt her, but as a tool to remind her of your value. Because when a woman starts to feel your absence more than she ever felt your presence, that's when she questions everything. 5. The subtle shift that makes her see you differently. Here's the truth most women won't tell you. We notice shifts in men more than we admit. When you've been rejected, the best thing you can do isn't to fight it. It's to quietly shift the way you show up in life. And I don't mean posting fake, look how happy I am without you pictures. I mean genuinely changing your energy, your focus, your presence. That's the subtle shift that makes us stop and take a second look. Let me paint this for you. Imagine a woman turns down a guy she thought was too available. In her mind, she puts him in that category of men who will always be there, who won't ever challenge her. She expects that after rejecting him, he'll linger, he'll keep orbiting around her, maybe still liking her photos or checking in, but instead, she sees something different. She notices he's not around as much anymore. His name isn't popping up on her notifications. He's not showing interest in her stories, her updates, her little traps to test his attention. Then one day, she scrolls past a picture of him at an event, surrounded by people, genuinely laughing. Or maybe he's sharing a new project, a new look, or a small accomplishment that he didn't have before. That shift is what gets under her skin. Because now she has to ask herself, did I misjudge him? Did I write him off too soon? And women hate the idea of missing out. We're naturally wired to chase value, so when a man we once rejected begins to glow in a new light, it forces us to question our original decision. this doesn't mean you should try to provoke her. If your actions are just about proving a point, we can feel that. It comes across as insecure and performative. But when your shift is authentic, when you really are leveling up because you're focused on your own life, that's when it lands. That's when she feels it deep in her gut. And here's the beauty of it. The shift doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't mean becoming a millionaire overnight or suddenly dating a supermodel. It's about small, consistent changes that show growth. Better energy, new habits, more confidence, or even just the way you carry yourself. Women pick up on those things more than you realize. Rejection makes most men shrink. But when you use it as fuel to expand, to evolve, you completely flip the narrative. She can't dismiss you as the same guy anymore because now you're showing her something she didn't see before. And that's when doubt creeps in. The subtle shift is powerful because it doesn't scream for her attention. It quietly demands it. And when a woman sees that growth from the sidelines, trust me, she starts questioning whether letting you go was her biggest mistake. 6. Why indifference creates the deepest doubt. If there's one thing that makes a woman question her rejection more than anything, it's indifference. And I don't mean pretending not to care while secretly waiting for her to notice. I mean genuine indifference, the kind where her rejection truly doesn't shake your world because your sense of worth was never tied to her in the first place. Here's why this matters so much. Women are highly intuitive when it comes to attention. We can feel when a man still cares, even if he's trying to act like he doesn't. That false front doesn't create doubt. It creates confirmation. It tells her, he still wants me, he's just trying to hide it. But when your indifference is real, when you honestly detach from her approval, that's when it stings. Indifference is powerful because it removes the one thing women often rely on after rejecting a man: control. Think about it. Most women know that when they reject a guy, he'll still be around in some form. He'll like her posts, he'll respond if she reaches out, he'll leave that door cracked open, just in case she ever wants to step through it. That safety net gives her comfort. But when you show indifference, you take that comfort away. You don't react to her updates. You don't leave yourself available just in case. You don't move in bitterness, but you also don't leave breadcrumbs for her to follow. You live your life as if she never held that much power over you to begin with. That's when the doubt creeps in. Wait, why isn't he affected? Did he never care? Or is he just stronger than I thought? And here's the female truth. Indifference is often more attractive than affection, because affection is expected. Indifference is rare. Women are used to men chasing, proving, trying to get them back. But when a man doesn't even play the game, when he's completely unfazed, it disrupts the way we see him. It forces us to question whether we underestimated him, whether we missed something valuable, whether our rejection was a mistake. Now, let me be clear. Indifference isn't about acting cold, rude, or dismissive. That's just bitterness disguised as strength. Real indifference is calm. It's the quiet confidence that says, I'm good with or without you. That's the kind of energy that lingers in a woman's mind long after she's walked away. The truth is, women don't question rejections of weak men. They only question rejections of men who prove they never needed their validation in the first place. And the quickest way to show that is through indifference. Because when she realizes her rejection didn't lower your value, but instead only revealed it, that's when she starts rethinking everything. So remember, it's not anger, not silence alone, not even distance that creates the deepest doubt. It's indifference. And once a woman feels it, she can't help but wonder if she let go of something rare. 7. The moment she realizes, you slipped out of her control. Let me give it to you straight. Rejection is never just about attraction. For many women, it's also about control. When a woman rejects a man, she doesn't just believe she's saying no. Deep down, she often assumes she still has some influence over him. She thinks he'll still care, still check in, still be an option if she ever feels like circling back. That's the quiet power women believe they hold, even after saying no. But here's where men rarely wake up to their own strength. When you break that assumption, when you truly slip out of her control, it shakes her. It makes her realize she may have lost more than she thought. And that's the moment her rejection starts to haunt her. You need to understand something. Women are used to men lingering. We're used to having options in the background. A man who doesn't move on, who waits in silence, who still shows he cares. That's predictable. But when you become unpredictable, when you don't orbit around her anymore, that's when the fear sets in, because she no longer has the comfort of knowing you're still under her spell. And let me be blunt here. Most men don't reach this point because they don't have the courage to cut the invisible cord. They're too busy wondering, will she come back? Should I send her a message? Should I prove I've changed? That mindset only feeds her sense of control. She knows she can get your attention whenever she wants, but the man who genuinely detaches, who no longer lives in reaction to her, that's the man who suddenly becomes unpredictable. He's no longer part of her controlled narrative. He's not the safe backup option. He's a wild card. And women don't forget wild cards. They obsess over them. Now, here's where I need to give you a little wake-up call. This isn't about playing games or trying to trick her into chasing you. If you only pretend to slip out of her control, she'll feel it. Women can sense when a man is still emotionally chained to them. The only way to really flip the script is to actually take your power back, to stop making her the center of your focus and start making your life bigger, fuller, and richer without her. That's when everything shifts, because now her rejection doesn't look like her decision anymore. It looks like your freedom. And the second a woman feels she's lost her influence over you, she'll start questioning herself in ways she never expected. So, here's your choice. Keep letting her control linger even after she's rejected you. Or cut the cord completely and watch how fast she starts replaying that moment in her head. Trust me. The second she feels you've slipped out of her hands, that's the moment she realizes. Here's the raw truth, and I won't sugarcoat it. When a woman rejects you, she expects to hold the upper hand forever. She expects you to wait, to chase, to prove yourself, or at the very least, to stay affected. And that's exactly why so many women never question their rejection, because most men give them the reaction they predicted. But when you flip the script, when you take her no and respond with calmness, distance, silence, growth, indifference, and finally detachment, you create a storm in her mind. You make her replay that decision. You force her to feel the weight of losing control. And that's what turns rejection into regret. Here's the part you need to remember. This isn't about manipulation. It's not about trying to punish her or trick her into chasing you. It's about you realizing that your value was never defined by her decision in the first place. That's the masculine strength women secretly crave, but rarely admit to. So let me leave you with this controversial truth. Rejection doesn't lower your worth. It reveals it. And the moment you truly understand that, you stop chasing, you stop proving, and you start living in a way that makes any woman who dismissed you question if she made the biggest mistake of her life. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a woman come back after rejecting you? How did you handle it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading and engaging with you, because trust me, this is a conversation every man needs to be part of.